What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the brand new PALDEAN TAUROS in the Open Great League. Now, in order to get this thing in the Open Great League, you do need to trade it with a lower level account. And fortunately, I was able to do that. I have traded it. It runs Double Kick, Aqua Jet, and Trailblaze. That is the recommended PvP moveset, and it does seem like it's the best moveset for this Pokemon. We've paired it today with Emolga because it covers a lot of Emolga's weaknesses. Emolga weak to Ice, weak to Rock, and then Wigglytuff is your safe swap on this team. So without further ado, let's hop into some battles. Okay, right away we've got a Talonflame on the lead. So this is a great lead because Thundershock is super effective and Fly and Brave Bird are all resisted. They come in with Feraligatr, and we don't have a great response, but we do have Wiggly, which resists the Shadow Claws. So all we have to do is commit one shield in this match, and we can maintain alignment. You could argue that you should come in with PALDEAN TAUROS because you actually wall the moveset on Feraligatr, and that is true, and you have super effective Trailblaze. I was just worried about getting outpaced just because it is 16 turns, or not 16, it is 12 turns to the first move on the Trailblaze. So it is a little bit slow. That being said, at this point I can just let the Emolga take this damage, and it actually is a Flame Charge, which hits neutrally here, but I am able to make it to a Discharge. Now Discharge will take out from this range unless my opponent commits the final shield, and they do. I do have to commit a shield here because Fly would do a crazy amount of damage, especially because it is super effective and they boosted their attack with Flame Charge. In the back is a Gastrodon. We can one-shot that with a Trailblaze and then make it to an Aqua Jet, so my opponent just resigns the match. Another great lead, Golisopod on the lead. They switch into a Wiggly of their own, and I do not have a great answer, so I'm going to stay in this matchup, chip with a Discharge, or grab a shield, and then come in with Wiggly of my own. Now, it doesn't really matter what my opponent does there, shield or not. If they shield, I just shield back. And then I can always keep alignment here because these charms are doing a lot of damage. They would make it to a second Swift, so I am forced to burn some energy, but that's okay. They do decide to let it go, and in comes Golisopod. Now, at this point, if they do not throw their energy, then I will do a lot of damage with these charms, but they eventually get off some energy. It is the Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet does KO, and it's a Credilli in the back. Now, here's a crazy play from me. Grass Knot, super effective. Credilli users, not that smart. Unfortunately for my opponent, I call the bait of the Rock Tomb. I'm able to immediately boost my attack back up after throwing on the CMB tie. We aren't able to grab the shield, so I probably will have to commit the shield back here, and I do. It is just the second Rock Tomb, but at this point I can just go for back-to-back Aqua Jets. I have two moves loaded. Are they going to let this go? They are. And then are they going to come back in with the Golisopod? They are. This is only one times debuffed, so they actually commit the shield, which is unfortunate because that actually allows me to get to the Discharge onto my Emolga with a quick switch. That is super effective, so it takes out the Golisopod and we're able to take that win. Dugong on the lead. This is a pretty neutral lead because we're both hitting each other for super effective damage, except my opponent gets out immediately into a Charge-Bug. Now, unfortunately, I do not have a great answer for Charge-Bug, so I just chip with a Discharge knowing they will let that go because it is resisted damage, and then I come in with a Wiggly. Wiggly obviously does force them to go for Discharges here, which is the worst move in this situation for them. And it looks like I can live too. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to try and force a shield with this Swift here once I get there. So throwing the Swift, they let that go, and we are able to keep alignment. We also get 4 charms, which is pretty valuable damage, and now I can also align my Tauros. This forces my opponent to go for drill runs, so I will just let this go. And they do actually go for the drill run. I am going to overfarm here, play to the CMP tie. That way, if they do want to throw some energy or get rid of my Tauros, they're going to have to commit a shield. And I will shield back because we don't know what's in the back, and they're staying in this matchup, and it's actually a superior. So kind of unfortunate that I shielded that, but I do have a pacing advantage here with a little bit of an energy residual, and I'm able to make it to an acrobatics, and that one-shots a superior. That is insane. When I threw that acrobatics, I was not expecting that kind of damage. I don't know if they don't have a great IV superior or if it just does that much damage. I have no idea. But either way, we get them deep into the red. They throw the Icy Wind, and I'm able to get to the Tauros. I can zero bubble a Trailblaze, and this will be super overkill for the Dugong. Looks like my opponent has forced quit the app, but we are able to still take that win. Into the next match, we have Annihilape on the lead. This should be a good lead, but they actually have a pacing advantage. They will get to the Rage Fist before I'm able to get to a first acrobatics, but counters are resisted, so I will let it go. But here's the problem with Emolga. I'm already deep into the yellow, and all they've done is connected with resisted fast moves and super effective, or not super effective, neutral charge moves. That being said, I'm going to farm up. I bait once, and I'm able to take it in the ones, or not even, because I didn't even commit a shield. And I will be able to align my Wiggly onto this Mandibuzz here, which is nice, and we chipped it. So, honestly, our Emolga put in huge work, and then we just have alignment for the rest of the game. So we were able to take that win. Drapion on the lead. A special thing about the typing on Tauros that you may or may not notice is that it completely walls the typical moveset of Shadow Drapion here. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw the discharge on CMP. They go for a crunch, and I shield it immediately. Now why? Because I'm going to overfarm and make a bit of an interesting play. I'm going to catch it onto my Wigglytuff. Now normally I would never come in with a Wiggly against a Drapion, but because we already did so much damage with the discharge, I put them in charm down range. I don't know what just happened there. I think I just glitched. But yeah, I could put them into charm down range, so they're actually forced to switch out of that matchup into not a great matchup for their Golisopod, and we're able to take that, and then they come back in with their Drapion. They're going to get the Poison Sting farm down, but guess what, opponent? I can just come in with Tauros, completely wall the moveset, and it is just the Aqua Tail, and then they have a Jellicent in the back. Now, I'm not expecting them to be familiar with the Tauros' moveset, so I'm going to full send the Trailblaze on the first. That way, when they let that go, I can just shield this back up, and then if I can play to the CMP tie again, then all of their energy will be wasted. The issue is here, if I throw another Trailblaze, then they might undercharge it. So I bait with an Aqua Jet now that they've seen Trailblaze, and now they're throwing the Shadow Ball on CMP. This should be enough to KO, and it is. And unfortunately for my opponent, I have loads of energy banked from before. I make it to back-to-back discharges before they're even able to make it to a Surf. I can just click the move. It looks like that is a CMP tie, but unfortunately for my opponent, Emolga is definitely winning that one, so we are able to take the win. Okay, into the next match, we've got a Furret on the lead. Now this is a match where I originally stay in and I just chip with a discharge. However, I think in the future I will come in immediately with Wiggly, because we actually have two better answers in the back, two Pokemon that resist Sucker Punch. So we actually call a bait, and it's a Trailblaze, which is kind of an interesting play, and then they go for resisted Sucker Punches and then come in with their Talon, so they may have banked a Swift there, but that actually allows me to get to a Swift of my own on the Wigglytuff. And these charms, even though they're resisted, they are chipping, so it forces my opponent to throw some energy. They do have Flame Charge, which is a bit unfortunate, because that means they get the full farm down. I'm going to come in Emolga. I'm going to get one turn lag. It's just the state of the game. So come in Emolga. Oh, I don't get one turn lag, and I'm able to get to a move, probably because they weren't instantly spamming the move, and they actually let that go. So we actually get the KO, and I'm just going to force them to throw their energy by staying in. I was energy dry, but maybe my opponent didn't know that. And now I can just come in with Tauros, and look at that. We absolutely wall the Pokemon in the back. It is the Shadow Drapion. In comes a Crunch. It does about 40%, but because these Poison Stings are starting to add up, I will commit the shield on the second move. This will allow me to get to back-to-back Aqua Jets here. Aqua Jet number 1 is shielded by my opponent. Aqua Jet number 2 immediately right after it with a second double kick. But unfortunately it's 4-3-3, which means my opponent can actually outpace, which means I do need to commit the shield. I'm going to click the move right away knowing that I already have it, and then this will be enough to KO, and then hopefully the double kick will be able to KO even though their sucker punches are resisted, but we actually end with a draw there. So Tauros with a little bit of a sweep at the end. Neutral lead in the next match, we have a Claydol. Obviously Thundershock and Discharge are resisted, and they have super effective Rock Tomb. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to farm up to the Acrobatics, full send it. It does about 50% to a Claydol, which is pretty nice considering Claydol is a very bulky Pokemon. And I will commit the shield because I want to try and grab a shield back. And the Mud Slaps are single resisted in this match, so I'm just going to at least grab the shield back and then maybe go for a Rock Tomb catch. And we are successful. We get the catch there. In comes the Rock Tomb. It connects, does some decent shit, but not terrible. And it's a Drapion in the back. So this is where it's really nice having Tauros aligned in the back. We will be able to play out of this matchup just a little bit, and it looks like my opponent is over farming as much as they can. They will just go for the knockout with the Aqua Tail here, and at this point I can just come back in with a Tauros, and Tauros will absolutely wall its moveset, so I can go for the full double kick farm down. In comes the first move. It is a crunch. They do get the debuff, but I'm able to get the full double kick farm down. What is in the back is the question. It is a Mandibuzz, but they are on Snarl. Now this is super important. Snarl obviously charges a lot faster for my opponent, but it is resisted, and we basically make a CMP sack swap here. We get to the move. It is a CMP tie, so we're just gonna let this go. We grab a shield as well, and Dark Pulse just about KOs, which is huge. They come back in with the Claydol. I'm going to overfarm as much as humanly possible, go for the Aqua Jet as soon as they're about to get to another move, and at this point all I have to do is make it to back-to-back Aqua Jets, and that was a CMP tie, and I have a shield remaining, which means this game is over. Aqua Jet number 1, I can shield their charge move, and then all I have to do is click the move, and we have taken home this game. And it looks like that was a double CMP tie, so my opponent actually did have back-to-back moves loaded, but Tauros winning CMP, outpacing the Mandibuzz, so we're able to take that win with energy management there. Real tough lead. In the next match, we have a Swampert. Now this is a pretty bad core breaker for my team. I can live one move, and they don't have an ability really to mud shot farm down, so I'm forced to let the first one go. I full send an Acrobatics, kind of hoping and praying that my opponent just lets this go, calling a bait, and they do, and that one shot the Shadow Swampert, which is absolutely massive for me, and it is a Drapion in the back, so this is fantastic. I probably could have overfarmed and gone up to the Acrobatics, but I kind of just panicked and wanted to get off the energy. And that's good because now I can just come in with my Tauros onto the Drapion. They have a Golisopod in the back, and while their charge moves are neutral here, their Shadow Claws are resisted, very similar to the Feraligatr matchup we saw earlier. All I have to do is basically go for a full farm down, come out with loads of energy. I believe Wiggly does. Actually, I'm not sure who wins CMP, Wiggly or Drapion. But either way, all I have to do is throw the move. I get to the Icy Wind. This will probably grab a shield as well. It does, but now their last Pokemon is permanently debuffed, which means I will just let this go. Even an Aqua Tail won't KO from this range, and now I can switch into my Tauros. Everything is resisted here. All I have to do is make it to back-to-back moves before they're basically able to make it to, 4 moves? I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to go for a Trailblaze here in case they do decide to shield. And they don't, but I'm able to get the double kick farm down, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, we have a Shadow Jumpluff on the lead. Now, Jumpluff are typically on double flying movesets this season because of the Acrobatics buff. So what I'm going to do is, because our pacing is exactly the same, I'm going to go for a Discharge bait on the CMP tie, take the resisted Acrobatics, And while that does do massive chip, it actually allows me to get to the acrobatics as soon as they would get to an aerial ace. So my opponent knows that, and they make a great catch on a Morpeko. But unfortunately, that means Morpeko doesn't get to play the game, and Wiggly gets the 2 charm down. What are they going to do? They're locked into this matchup. It is a Drapion in the back. I'm not worried about any one move here, so I'm going to let this go, and I am going to throw in good timing so I don't give my opponent any free energy, because Drapion energy goes absolutely everywhere. Somehow that was a CMP tie, which means my opponent got 1 turn lag because the game is terrible. But they are able to get to another move. We've actually already got the Drapion deep into the red, and at this point we have a 2 shield advantage, and we completely wall their moveset, which means we can save all of our energy for the Emolga. I anticipate the switch, so I start spamming the move. Every single move will be able to KO me from this range. They have to make it now to back-to-back aerial aces before they're able to knock me out. They know that, so they overfarm. I'm able to get to the acrobatics. This is enough to KO, and it's just the low HP Drapion. They have to commit to the farm down. They aren't able to get there, so we're able to take the win with Aqua Breed Tauros lurking in the back. Malamar on the lead. Now this is a pretty neutral lead, however, our stat product is worse than the Malamar, but they throw in alignment. They threw as soon as they got to the move, which is actually really nice because that will allow me to do a discharge plus a acrobatics before they're able to get to back-to-back moves. And that's exactly what happens. We would get to the acrobatics on CMP. It looks like they did not throw their energy, potentially just going for the full sideway farm down and committing both shields, and they do. I can just align my Wiggly, because this will force them to go for superpowers, and I imagine they have an answer to fairies in the back, so I can just let this go. And they don't have a great answer. They have an Azumarill in the back. I will go for the Swift on the CMP tie, force them to throw all of their energy here, and then I will just get into my Tauros after this charge moves connects, because now we have a 2 shield advantage and Tauros, and they have resisted fast moves. They don't even build up to a play rough, so I'm just definitely going to let this go. They're not quite in Trailblaze range yet, but I make it to back-to-back moves, so I may as well throw it here, boost up these double kicks, because we can maybe put them into farm down range, and look at that, we can. They actually switch out because they do not want to get farmed down. They switch into the Malamar. I was a little slow to the move, so I can just shield this up. I can just click the move because I do not want to take any more super effective side waves. And what is that Pokemon in the back that they came back in with the Malamar? It is a Diggersby. That actually allows me to get 2 back-to-back Aqua Jets here, right as they make it to the Fire Punch. And I can click the move. This will be enough to KO the Diggersby. Goodbye, Mr. Diggersby. In comes the Azumarill. It gets double kicked farm down by a fighting type, and we are able to take that win. So yeah, that is Aqua Breed Tauros. This thing actually surprised me. I think it's a lot better than a lot of content creators give it credit for. I think it makes a really good core with Emolga. I think the problem is Emolga is not great. I think Emolga severely underperformed for this team and made it pretty difficult to get wins with this team. That being said, there's definitely a lot of win cons. You have to be very aware with your energy management on Aqua Breed Tauros, and I imagine the other breeds as well, but I feel like the best typing is the Aqua Breed here, just because water is so dominant in GBL. But yeah, that's the team, that's the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.